Under Trump's administration, the archives are deleting essentially the history of human rights violations that are occurring at the border. Maybe not all of them, but it is one of those things that is so easy to go under the radar if it's not for groups like Democracy Now! and us who point it out. So there is a man named Matthew Connolly who's a history professor at Columbia, and he's been speaking out about the process by which the things that we need to remember so that when we look back through the long lens of history to see how we messed up as a country, we can have proof that we should never do this again. And he says, what I found and what others have found is that records relating to the death, the sexual assault of undocumented immigrants had been designated as temporary by the archives. And in other words, these were records they decided had to be deleted after sometimes 3 years, 5 years, 10, or at most 25 years in one of the cases. In December, huge numbers of records relating to shoddy medical care, the civil rights violations of these undocumented immigrants, all these records are gonna start to be destroyed later this year. There was a small amount of time when this came out a couple months ago. People spoke up, but they just were like, all right, no one's paying attention. We're gonna go ahead and delete these vital histories.
So there's a misconception about the origin of the phrase political correctness. Now people use it as like, some people say, hey, don't offend people, and others say, well, I want to offend them, so you're just doing political correctness. That's actually not what political correctness is. It was originally used by actually both the Nazis and Stalinist Russia. And in both instances, it meant that the news had to do not what was factually correct, but what was politically correct. So if they said the Jews or vermin and all whatever horrible things they said, that was what the news had to report, not that they were actually human beings, etc. I give you a million examples. And the other part of political correctness was you must not say things that are true, and if you did say them, you must remove it, okay? And then of course the Nazis then went on to say, well, you know what, that's not quite good enough. Let's take all the books that we don't like and start burning them. And so that way only our propaganda will exist and people will not be able to access what is actually factually correct.
Yeah.
And here we are, where they're beginning to burn the things that are factually correct because it was considered politically incorrect to state the facts.
So I will say this, when I went to Israel, one of the women that I had a conversation with, I went to a Shabbat dinner, she was a Holocaust survivor. She told her children and they told their children. She had great-grandchildren in the building. So what I'm going to say to all of the people with regard to this administration and those who are complicit with everything that this administration is doing is that you can delete all the records you want. You can burn the books, but the people shall speak to all of the injustices that this administration has inflicted upon its people. So you can do all the deleting, you can hit that button all you want. You will still go down in history unfavorably for what you have done, because there are people who have pictures of those babies in those cages on their phones. There are people who have them in their own clouds because there's nothing you can do. Just like technology works in your favor, it works in our favor as well. So I don't even want to talk about this because it just made me angry, because it's just part of the oppression of people of color that is part of the history of what America has been and continues to be. It is in the fiber of this country and in all of us, and until we deal with it honestly, we will not eradicate it. So you can delete all of it that you want. Donald Trump will always be the man that goes down, unless somebody else beats him, as the worst president that the United States ever had.
Meanwhile, he then turns around and says, my poor friend Roger Stone, all he did was witness tampering, lying to Congress, breaking all these different laws, threatening people, and he's gonna get 7 to 9 years. No, I gotta fire everybody who was involved, and I gotta save. I don't want my friend in a cage. Oh, you're black and brown kids? Oh, put them in cages. But what did they do? They didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Put them in cages, but not my beloved, wealthy, powerful friends. That's who Donald Trump is.
So those are the big things. There was one little detail. I read this guy Matthew Connolly's op-ed that he wrote in the New York Times, and it's a pattern with Trump to try to get rid of evidence to bring it back to to what we were talking about at the beginning. This quote's amazing. He says, President Trump has long made it a practice to tear up his papers and throw them away. It is a clear violation of the Presidential Records Act, which is supposed to prevent another Watergate-style cover-up. Workers in the White House Records Management Office who used to tape these records together say they were fired without explanation. So it's even, and I guess especially the little notes that he writes for himself, he would tear it up and people would have to go through the trash by law to reassemble them. Like imagine the tape there on the wall trying to find, do you have a page? I got do you have the Constitution on the other, or whatever, and tape them back together. And this guy fires the ones. And that's also, so you know, that's the system. It's a giant scheme to do this. And the reason, and the way that they know that is because they've slowly over time been defunding the archiving department. And the reason the archives are so important is because if another agency, for whatever reason, decides they want to get rid of this evidence, the archives are the place where it lives forever, where you can eventually go find it. And if the archives are the ones who have to get rid of it, and this policy started in 2017, kind of driving it up to a higher level, if it's not there, it's not anywhere.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.